What's up, everybody? Skyhook Garage here, and today we're going to be doing the engine guard / light bar bracket setup for the 2020 Africa Twin. This kit here is 08P75-MKS-E00, and this kit in this video is going to be for putting the bracket that goes on the front of the bike right below the exhaust head pipe. All right, these two brackets here are going to be necessary if you want to mount the engine guard bracket to your motorcycle, or if you want to do the light bar kit. Now, I don't have the light bar yet. I only have actually received these two brackets real early when I ordered them. It's still mid-2020 right now at the time of this recording, and the light bar hasn't made it to me yet. It's on back order. You know, I've called Honda. They said it's coming, but it took about 2 months. I got these right away, the two brackets in that kit, and I'll describe that in a second. And then I got these engine guards probably about 3 or 4 days ago. So it's a good 2 months between these two, and I haven't seen the light bar kit yet. Now, if you're deciding to do either the engine guards or the light bar, and you haven't gotten the light bar or the engine guards yet, and you're thinking, hey, let's put these brackets on in the meantime, and then as soon as I get the either two setups, I can do them at a later time. The problem with doing that is when you order this kit, this is the $35 engine guard attachment kit in this box I just showed you. All right, you get the two brackets that go on either side of the front tube frame. All right, you'll get a pair of longer bolts. These two bolts will go through the center of these two. All right, they go across just like that. They need to be a little bit longer than the factory bolts in order to accommodate the thickness of the brackets. You'll get two nuts, new nuts for the longer bolts, and then you'll get a pair of spacers that need to go on the left side. And I'll describe that a little bit better once we get over to the bike. The problem with this install and doing it separate and doing it in advance of getting the rest of your stuff for the bike is that in order to do these brackets, you have to pull the exhaust away from the bike. You have to either pull it completely off, or you have to get another person, which is how I'm gonna do it. Again, I'll describe it better at the bike. You have to move the exhaust head pipes out of the way, because the way that these two brackets sit, this is the right side, the head pipe sits into this pocket. And the same thing with the left side, the head pipe for the left cylinder sits in the pocket here. So you can't get the original bolts out of the original bracket with the head pipe in the way. As soon as you remove the head pipe, the crush washers, the crush gaskets, these copper gaskets in here, okay, they're already molded to that first time getting crushed on. And anytime that you remove the exhaust on a motorcycle that has these type of gaskets, they really should be replaced. Sometimes you can get away with it. I have before, but a lot of times you end up getting that tick, 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 tick noise, and you got an exhaust leak going on because you didn't put new crush gaskets in there. So back to the original problem. When you get this kit, everything, the two brackets, the two bolts, the two nuts, and the two spacers, that's all you get in this kit. The only time you will get a new pair of crush washers are if you order the guards or you order the light bars. Those two kits separately will have new gaskets in it. For whatever reason, Honda decided that since you need the gaskets for the bracket kit, we're not going to put them in there. A little bit disappointed in that, especially since I got these so long ago and I wanted to do it, but I refused to buy gaskets separately knowing that I was getting them in the kits. So with that said, if you don't have either one of the two light bar or the engine guard kit with you with new gaskets, just hold off. Wait till you get one of those two kits, then get to putting this on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this guard on in this video. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys how to do that, assuming that you have new crush gaskets. And then the next video you guys will have available is going to be the engine guards. Now, like I said, I'm going to put a link down below for that video, and once I have the light bar set up, I'm going to end up doing that video also and put that and embed it in this video. So right now, we're going to do the brackets, and at the end of the video, there'll be a link to the engine guards if that's what you have. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't have the light bar set up yet, and as soon as I get that, I'll get that video up. So, long digression, I apologize. Parts and tools, tools you're going to need for this. You're going to need a 3/8 ratchet. Torque wrench is going to be real handy. Make sure everything's tightened the way it should be. Again, you don't need a torque wrench. I'll give you guys the torque specs on the bike when I'm working on it, but it's always nice to have a torque wrench, even a cheap one. This is a snap-on one, but it's about 20 years old, inherited from my father. It still works great. You'll need a 3-inch extension, deep 12mm socket. This guy's going to be partly for the exhaust removal. You're going to the 4 nuts that hold the head pipe on, they're 12mm, and then also one of the exhaust bolts back towards the rear of the bike is also 12mm. You want a 12mm wrench that's going to hold the back side of the exhaust bolt that I was just describing at the back of the bike. All right. You're going to want a long pick or flathead screwdriver. This is going to be used for popping out the little holders that hold the exhaust air fuel sensors or oxygen sensors. It's going to be used for popping them out so you can get access to them. Allen wrenches, 6mm is going to be the primary one you need. This is for all the way at the very rear of the bike. This is what holds the bolt that goes through that holds the rear of the exhaust muffler to the motorcycle. This is a 6mm Allen bolt that's through there. And then I'm going to remove the lower skid plate. You don't have to, but I'm going to just to give myself some more room when I loosen up the exhaust and get it out of the way. If you choose to do that, you'll need the 5mm Allen here, and there's 4 bolts on there. I'll describe all this once we get back over to the bike. New hardware, it's 12mm, nuts and bolts. All right, so you can either use a couple wrenches or the sockets that I just described here. So let's get over to the bike. Definitely want a flashlight too. All right, that'll give you some light in the hard to reach areas. So let's head over to the bike and we'll get this install started. Real quick, I apologize, left and right orientation. If you're looking, pretend you're looking at the front of the bike right now, okay, the pockets are facing you. 2 center bolts here, either side of these brackets, you'll have a bunch of holes on one side and only 2 on one side of both brackets. Those 2 will face each other and the pockets will face you, all right? And then the best way to describe this is the sides with the lots of bolts or the lots of holes here, you want them to be in a lower position. So just like this, as you can see, this is as if you're looking at the front of the bike. Now, obviously what I did was some painter's tape and some Sharpie marker labeled left and right side. It's always a good idea to do that. You can put them on the bike upside down, all right? God forbid you do that, and then you go to try to put the exhaust back on, it's not going to work and it's not going to fit at these brackets with them in an upward position, all right? Let's head over to the bike, get this install started. All right, guys, so step number 1 on the bike is going to be remove the engine skid plate. Okay, I got this guy removed already. Further along in this video is going to be the engine guards that run right here. So you need to remove the skid plate anyway. So to get that guy off, you got 4 bolts. One here, you got another one up top here. Okay, orientation on the bike. 1, 2, 3, and then 4 right there. All right, now when you remove those, that 4th one there is going to have a metal collar right here. All right, it's going to go into the rubber bushing just like that. All right, and that's going to be the guy that's on the left side of the bike right below the shifter there. Now up on the top here, this guy right here, okay, that is going to be this guy right here. All right, it's going to be the smaller bolt. This one right here. All right, it also has a metal collar that needs to go back into that rubber bushing. Okay, I took them out because they're easy to lose. All right, then you also have the metal bracket nut cert that goes over this. If you guys have done the oil change on this bike already, you're going to know that this stuff comes off and falls off pretty easily. All right, so just make sure you don't lose any of this stuff. You're definitely going to need it to put the skid plate back on. Okay, so first step with the bike. All right, right here you're going to pull out very gently. All right, and you're going to pull this plastic boss that's right here. Okay, you're going to pull it out of that rubber just a little bit, just so you can get access to the wiring here. Now, Honda wants you to disconnect the O2 sensors, the air fuel sensors right here, okay, to give you enough room to get this exhaust out of the way to access those bolts and get those new gaskets in there once you remove and reinstall the exhaust. As you can see, you can get the bottom one here out, but you won't be able to get the top one here, so without removing this pipe here. And you can't remove this pipe without removing both because they're all one assembly. Now, what I have done is I'm going to have a helper out here regardless because the other side exhaust has the cables that go to it, and I'm going to need someone to hold that anyway because I'm not going to remove the whole cable servo assembly. Honda doesn't want you to either. They do want you to have a second person holding the exhaust while you do this install relatively quickly. You don't want the person over there too long holding on to everything. So what I'm going to do is this side of the exhaust where the O2 sensors go. Okay, so right here, this clip here, this harness goes down to the O2 sensor. This guy sits in this hole right here, all right, this clip does. And then the socket for the connector also has a similar clip, and that guy sits in this slot right here. Now the connector goes up, the wire goes up and over and down, comes up through this clip here, and then it snakes back down to the connector here. So what I suggest is I'm going to pop this guy out like I already have, pop this guy out, and then I'm going to pop this guy right here. Now, in order to pop those out of there, I'll show you this clip here first. So this guy right here, all you're going to do is you're going to get your pick or your flathead screwdriver in. Make sure you don't pierce the vent tube right there. All right, you're going to get under this and try to work these two apart. Okay, just like that. So there's teeth right here, and there's these two slots slide into it. All right, you're just going to lift on this tab a little bit, and it's going to pop out of the way. So get those guys out of the way. All right, and that'll give you access to the wire that is right in here. All right, now that that's loose and out of the way, now you can pop the O2 sensor down and out. There we go. So in order to pop these clips right here, okay, you want to depress a little bit right on this tang and the same thing on the other side. And you'll see you'll be able to access them real easily right from there. They come right through those holes. You push down on the tangs on this side through the hole in the fairing, and they'll pop right through. No problems there. Gives you enough room to get to them over here. And then in order to get the plug undone, okay, it's just like a typical connector. All right, it's taped up, and you have this little tang right there. You have to depress on that in order to release it and get it away from the rest of the socket here. So now that this sensor is disconnected, out of the way, tons of slack on this one. Now the other side is a completely different story. The other side's a real pain in the butt. So that's why my helper is going to end up holding more of the exhaust than they're probably prepared to. I'm sure she's going to enjoy that. So the problem with this side is the connector, it has it right here, the little tang that holds the harness, okay? This goes down to the air fuel sensor. All right, but when you go up into the top here, it goes way up and behind the tank, like right here. The instructions tell you to remove this fairing a little bit, pop it out so you can gain access to it like you would the other side. But there's not enough room to really get up in there. And the holder that the connector is slotted into, it's completely different than the other side. It's one of those where there's a metal bracket that sits there, and then the body of the connector slides over it, and you really you can't get it off of that without getting a pick down through the top of it and popping it in order to get that connector off. So unfortunately, what I'm going to do is, and what I would suggest is, you pop this guy out just like you would the other one. Okay. There you go. You got those two guys right in there. Okay, you can see the light coming through the holes there. You only got one of those. One of the other holes is just a dummy hole. But you'll pop that little blue plastic clip out of there. Okay. And once you have that out, you should have enough slack for your helper to hold the exhaust far enough away from the head pipe and away from the block in order to get that bracket on there. Once you get those connectors undone, you're going to want to loosen up this guy right here, 12mm nut. You want to hold the back side of it. Got the back side right here, has the bolt in here. Hold that, take the nut off. okay, and then the 6mm guy right here. Now these are the cables for the exhaust servo that I was talking about earlier. Honda's going to want you to support the exhaust anyway with a helper. So I'm just going to have my helper hold the back of the exhaust and the front of the exhaust here and just kind of hold it there. Hopefully it's not too heavy. But you shouldn't be working on this bracket for too long. Now, this bracket here. Before you disconnect the exhaust or any of that stuff, and before you're going to need a second set of hands, these two nuts here, 12mm nuts, pop those guys off. That way, when you're ready to remove the exhaust and get it out and have someone support it, you're not over here trying to take nuts and bolts off. Because as soon as you get the new brackets on, okay, you get the new brackets in there and you get the new bolts through, you can start putting the exhaust back on, okay? So these two nuts obviously on the head pipe, loosen them all the way up. Don't take them all the way out yet, just I would suggest maybe loosening them, take them off, and then just put them on a couple threads, both sides. Get everything prepared for the exhaust to hang, and then get your brackets ready and set up on the ground here. So let's get the camera set up, and we're gonna go through all this real quick, all right? Okay, so once you have your helper that's holding the exhaust down and away from the head pipe there, it'll give you access to getting these two bolts out. I already took the lower one out, all right, and the upper one's still in here. We're going to use the socket and the 12mm to try to work it out of this side. The nuts are off this side, all right. Then you have your exhaust gaskets that are still up in here, little flathead screwdriver in there. You work on popping those guys out of there, get the old ones out. Pop the new ones in there once you put everything back together. So for step one is going to be get those exhaust gaskets out, the old ones, so we can get the new ones in, and then we'll work on getting that cross bolt out of that OE bracket there. All right, these are the two old bolts and the nuts. Set them off to the side. Now you'll have the two longer bolts that you got in the kit. All right, don't forget labeled left side, right side. So we'll start with the left. Now, when you put the bracket on, you're going to run the bolt through the bracket first. All right, and then you had two spacers that came in that kit. They need to go on the inboard side of the bracket. So they're going to go on in between the bracket and the OE bracket that's still on the motorcycle. And they'll be for the top and the bottom there. You have to make sure that you can put both spacers on in between the bracket, the new bracket, and the bracket that's still on the motorcycle. All right. Get the nuts started. As long as you don't drop them like that. All right, and as you can see, I still have a bunch of slack in this cable over here for the right side air-fuel ratio sensor. So there's really no reason to have to disconnect it, especially if you have a second person that's helping you. Make sure that it doesn't pull on that cable too much. So what we'll do now is we'll get the new exhaust gaskets. See if they'll stay in there first. Maybe they will. Nope, they don't stay in there. So this is going to be a little bit of finagling to get the exhaust up on there and get those gaskets in place. So what I would suggest is get the exhaust up kind of where it needs to be. Then try to stick those gaskets into those holes without destroying them. get them to stay in there. Okay, once you get everything started, you're going to want to tighten up the exhaust manifold brackets here, the two nuts for either pipe, evenly up against those new crush gaskets. Okay, they're going to be 15 foot-pounds is what you're looking for on those nuts. The center piece is here where the new brackets went on. The installation instructions do not give a specific torque spec, but the original torque spec for these two bolts for the engine in the service manual is 24 foot-pounds. So just shoot for that. That's what you're looking for there. The two bolts that go on the side of the exhaust, the middle bolt does not have a torque spec, nor does the rear muffler bolt. All it says is just make sure they're tightened securely. So just use your best judgment on those. I would say no more than 15 foot-pounds on those bolts. All right, so once you have all that put together, everything else with the electrical connectors and the stay bushings and whatnot and the skid plate, those will all go back in the way they came off. And this is it for this video. Now down below there should be a link right now for the video for the the engine guard bracket pipes. And that's what we're going to do next. And hopefully in the near future, once I get the video up for the pipe for the light bracket, all right, the guy that's going to go up top all the way across here, all right, that'll also be a link down below with the engine guard bracket. All right, so thanks for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can keep getting these videos. And yeah, until next time, thanks for watching.